made a mistake early on in my relationship when my husband found out this was his response.
Hey Reddit, first-time poster here, but long-time lurker. My name is Mike, a 38-year-old who runs construction projects here in the heart of Columbus, Ohio. Life's been good, or at least I thought it was. You see, I've built my life the way I build my projects, with care, precision, and a blueprint for everything. My wife Emily is 36, teaches a bunch of lively first graders, and has always been the kind of person who lights up a room with her smile. We've got 2 amazing kids, a dog that's too smart for its own good, and a house that feels like it's straight out of a family sitcom. Now, I'm the kind of guy who doesn't mess around. Straight shooter, they call me. Loyalty is the foundation I've laid my life upon. I don't forgive easy, and I don't forget. Betrayal isn't just a word in a dictionary to me. It's a collapsed building that can't be put back up. But let me take you back a bit, 11 years to be exact. That was the year I proposed to Emily under the stars at the Columbus Park of Roses. She had tears in her eyes, and I knew I had the whole world in my hands. Our love. It was the kind that you didn't question, solid and supposed to last until the earth stopped turning. Now fast forward to today, or rather, a few days ago. Christmas is breathing down our necks, and I'm up in the attic searching for the decorations. It's a mess up there. Dust is a blanket over boxes we haven't touched in years. That's when I find this old flip phone tucked away in a box marked Memories 2008. Funny, I don't remember us keeping old phones as keepsakes. Curiosity has always been a friend of mine, so I think, why not see if this ancient relic still works? I find the old charger, plug it in, and the little screen flickers to life. It's like waking up a piece of the past. And boy, did the past have a lot to say. I'm not prepared for what I find. Messages that turn my sturdy world into quicksand. Hey everyone. Unfortunately, basically everyone who is watching these videos isn't subscribed. It would mean the world to me to quickly get out of the full screen video for 3 seconds and press that subscribe button. It's free, and you can unsubscribe anytime. Sorry for bothering, and thank you so much if you subscribed. They aren't to me or any family member. No, they're to someone named Dan with little hearts next to his name. My brain starts doing the math before I can stop it. 11 years ago, Emily never mentioned any Dan. So there I am, sitting in the dust and the cold with every heartbeat feeling like a sledgehammer against my ribs. I've got to know more, but not like this. Not with half-told truths from a phone that should have stayed lost. I slide the phone into my pocket, head downstairs, and plaster on a smile for the kids. But inside, I'm anything but the festive dad they see. I'm a man on a mission for the truth. And that's where I am, Reddit. Standing on the edge of what feels like a cliff, looking down into what might be the end of everything I've known. But I'm not the kind of guy who just jumps. I'm the kind who plans the descent. So I'm going to find out everything before I confront her. Because in my world, you don't accuse without proof. You don't tear down a building without knowing exactly why it's gotta fall. I'll keep you all posted. Hey Reddit, back again. It's Mike. I wish this update was to tell you all about how the phone was just a silly misunderstanding, but life's got a way of throwing curveballs that would make a major league pitcher jealous. I found that old charger, and wouldn't you know it, the darn thing actually worked. The phone came to life with that old familiar jingle like it was no different than any other day. My heart was racing, the kind of adrenaline you get when you're standing on a high beam 10 stories up with no harness. That's when I saw it. A messaging app I didn't recognize, blinking with notifications that were years past their delivery date. Reading those messages was like watching a car crash in slow motion. They were from Emily to this guy, Dan, filled with words that felt like punches to the gut. I miss you. Can't wait to see you. Last night was a dream. Every single one a betrayal. Every word another crack in the life I thought I had. The dates, they lined up perfectly with a time I remember all too well. 11 years ago, I was laid up with a bad fall from a site, the kind of injury that has you staring at the ceiling for weeks. It was Emily who played the devoted fiancée, bringing me meals and managing my meds. Or so I thought. Now I'm seeing it was also Emily who was sneaking off to play house with some guy while I was whacked out on painkillers. I sat there on our bed, this phone in my hand feeling like a live grenade. My head was spinning, disbelief, anger, and yeah, that sting of betrayal that sears your insides like a branding iron. Emily, the woman I shared my bed, my life, my kids with, sneaking around like a character from one of those trashy soap operas she hates. I wanted to storm down the stairs, confront her with her little love notes to Dan and watch her face for any flicker of guilt. But that's not me. I'm not the confrontation on a whim kind of guy. I needed to know everything first, have all my ducks in a row. Because when I bring the hammer down, I want it to be with the full force of the truth behind it. So, I'm playing the long game. I locked those messages in my head and that phone back in my tool chest. Emily, she's acting normal, like any other day. She's got no idea that I know, and I'm keeping it that way for now. But every smile, every peck on the cheek, feels like a lie now. I need to dig deeper, make sure I have the whole picture before I blow up our lives. If I'm pulling the house down, I'm going to be damn sure I know why I'm doing it. I'll let you know what I find, Reddit, because right now, it's all I've got. All right, Reddit, it's Mike here, clocking back in with an update. If you've ever thought life could be as tangled as the cords behind your TV, then welcome to the club. The past few days have been like living in a detective show, except I'm the guy piecing together his own case of domestic heartbreak. With the stealth of a cat, I started combing through the history of us. I went down to the basement, where we keep all our old planners. You know Emily, being a teacher, she's meticulous about keeping records. So, I dug out the one from 11 years ago, dusted it off, and what I found was a map to the past. Days she said she was working late, business trips, and those mandatory team-building weekends. I cross-checked dates with the messages, and guess what? It was like fitting pieces into a puzzle, a really sad, pathetic puzzle. Then, there was the social media archaeology dig. I jumped onto the old Facebook account I haven't used in years, scrolling way back to simpler times, or so I thought. There were pictures, Emily and this Dan guy, always side by side at work events, always tagged together. Great job, team. Couldn't have done it without you, Dan. It was all right there in the open, and I was too blind to see it. The more I found, the more meticulous I got with my documentation. Screenshots, printed emails I found saved on an old hard drive, receipts for dinners out that I thought were for client meetings. It was like I was building a case for a jury, except the only juror was me, and my verdict was already pretty much decided. All this time, I'm putting on the Oscar-worthy performance of the unsuspecting husband. I kept it normal, the goodnight kisses, the how was your day, banter. It was eating me up inside though. Every smile from her was like a twist of the knife, but I couldn't let on. I've got to keep the act up for the kids too. They don't deserve to get dragged into this mess. Dan, this guy, turns out he left Ohio a few years back, moved on to some tech job in California, a whole new life. I even found his LinkedIn profile. Great at building professional and personal relationships. Yeah, a real charmer. So there you have it, Reddit. The case of Mike versus the ghost of infidelity past. All evidence points to a guilty verdict. What's left now is the confrontation. But it's gotta be more than just a showdown. It's got to be the final act of a play that's been running for too long. I need to plan it out perfectly, down to the last word. Because when I do this, when I finally confront Emily, I want to see the truth in her eyes without a shadow of doubt. I'll make sure to update you all when the curtain rises. Thanks for following, guys. It means more than you know. Hey Reddit, Mike here again. This story's turning out to be longer than one of those never-ending drama series, huh? But every story needs its climax, and mine's just around the corner. I've decided it's going down on our anniversary. That's right. The day that was supposed to celebrate our union is going to be D-Day. There's a cruel irony in it, but it feels fitting. The same day I asked her to be mine forever is the day I'm going to lay all the cards on the table. Now, you don't just walk into a hurricane without bracing yourself. So I've been steeling my heart for what's coming. It's been like living in a house of mirrors, every reflection showing a happy family. But I know too well that some of those images are nothing but illusions. The pain of keeping up the act is a constant burn, It's there when I wake up and kiss Emily good morning. It's there when we sit down for dinner and chat about what the kids did at school. And it's there when I turn off the lights and pretend I'm falling asleep next to a woman I trust. My jaw's been clenched so tight, I'm surprised I haven't cracked a tooth. But here's the deal. I'm not going into this blind. I've got a plan. I've scripted the questions, rehearsed them in my head and in front of the bathroom mirror. The words feel like lead on my tongue, but they're ready to be fired when the moment comes. I'm going to take her out to dinner, the same place we celebrated getting engaged. It's always been our spot. I'll let the evening settle, let her sip her favorite wine, and then I'll ask her about the past. Not like I'm curious, but like I know something's off. And when she realizes I'm not just making conversation, I'll show her the proof. I want to see her face, watch her eyes, and know what she's really feeling. Is there guilt, remorse? I need to see it, raw and unfiltered. The conversation in my head goes 100 different ways, but every time it ends with me walking away from the table. So, that's the plan, Reddit. As for the emotional prep, well, let's just say it's a work in progress. Every morning I have to swallow the bitterness, and every night I have to drown out the anger with a couple of beers. It's tough, not letting the rage or the hurt slip through the cracks. But this charade is necessary for just a little while longer. I'll update you all after. Whether it's the end of an era or the start of a new chapter, you guys will be the first to know. Hey Reddit, Mike here. It's been a minute since my last update, and oh boy, do I have a story for you. Our anniversary. That was the night I decided would be the grand finale of this tragic play. We went to our spot, the little Italian place downtown where I'd gotten down on one knee all those years ago. The same table, the same dim lighting casting golden halos around the room, the same old waiter with his lopsided grin. It was supposed to be romantic, celebrating a decade and a year of marriage. Emily was all smiles, dolled up in her favorite dress, the one that made her eyes look like the ocean. And there I was, a storm brewing behind my forced smiles. We ate, she talked, I nodded. The dance of normalcy was excruciating, each course a step closer to D-Day. With every bite, I felt like I was swallowing down the anger. The wine was bitter on my tongue. Finally, we got home. The babysitter left, the kids were already in bed, and that's when I turned from loving husband to the man with a mission. I didn't even let her settle, didn't offer coffee or the comfort of the couch. I laid it out, the old phone, the messages, the pictures, like cards on the table. At first, she laughed it off, a nervous chuckle that didn't quite reach her eyes. She tried to say it was a joke, a silly thing from the past, but her voice was as shaky as a leaf in a storm. Then came the hard proof, the dates, the details I had meticulously gathered. The laughter died. Her face went from pale to flush, a tide of realization washing over her. And then, the dam broke. The tears, the sobbing, the "I'm so sorries." But here's the thing, Reddit. I felt nothing. No sympathy for those crocodile tears, no warmth in the coldness spreading inside me. My voice was like steel when I told her it was over. She pleaded, she promised it was a mistake, a thing of the past, but it was too little, too late. I told her I'd be sleeping in the guest room until we figured out what to do with the house, the kids, the broken shards of our life together. She cried herself to sleep on the sofa, and I lay awake, staring at the ceiling of a room I barely recognized. So the dust has settled a bit since the night of revelations. And by settled, I mean it's like the quiet after a bomb's gone off. In the aftermath, there's been a lot of debris, emotions, memories, the bits and pieces of a life I thought I knew. I sat Emily down the day after. It wasn't a negotiation, it was a declaration. I told her I wanted a divorce, no second chances, no couples therapy. The trust was shattered, and I'm not the kind of guy who tries to piece together a broken mirror. She cried. Sure, she said sorry 1,000 times, maybe more. But my course was set. The kids, man, telling the kids was the hardest part. I sat them down, looked into their confused little faces, and explained that sometimes, even mommies and daddies need timeouts from each other, that we both loved them more than anything, and that wouldn't change, no matter where we slept at night. There were tears, questions I had tough answers for, and through it all, I had to keep it together for their sake. I called a family meeting too, told my parents, my sister, a few close friends. It was a mixed bag. Some were shocked, couldn't believe sweet Emily could do such a thing. Others, they just hugged me, said they had my back. My dad, he's a man of few words, just squeezed my shoulder and gave me that nod. That, you're doing the right thing nod. Emily's now looking for a new place. We agreed she would move out. It's better for the kids to stay in their home, keep some semblance of normalcy. We're hashing out the details of co-parenting. It's like walking a tightrope, but we're doing it. For the kids. The lawyers are in the picture now, drawing up the papers, splitting up the life I spent almost 15 years stitching together. It's cold, it's impersonal, but it's necessary. Like cutting away the damaged part of a building so the rest can still stand. I'm not looking back, Reddit. I've always been the guy who looks ahead, makes the decisions, and doesn't dwell on the what-ifs. I stand by my principles. Loyalty, honesty, and if you can't give me that, you're not getting a second chance. So, that's where I'm at. A single dad, soon to be divorced, standing on my own 2 feet and looking out for my kids. It's not going to be easy, but then again, I've never been one to shy away from the hard stuff. Thanks for sticking with me. I'll drop another update when the next shoe drops. What's up, Reddit? It's Mike, back for what feels like the final chapter of a saga I never wanted to star in. It's been several weeks since I last spilled my guts to the internet. I've read every single comment, taken every piece of advice, and I've got to say, it's made a difference. The kids and I, we're doing okay. Better than okay, some days. There's laughter in the house again, real laughter. We've had our moments, plenty of them. But we talk it out now. We deal with the emotions like a team. They're tough little cookies, my kids. I've found a kind of peace in the chaos. The divorce is almost finalized, and the future's looking different than I thought, but it's looking all right. I'm a full-time dad, and I've never been more committed to a job in my life. I'm baking cookies, and only burning like half of them. I'm at every soccer game cheering the loudest, and we've got this Friday night movie tradition, the kids pick, and I've seen enough animated movies to last a lifetime now. And yeah, I'm dipping my toes back in the dating pool. Not diving in head first or anything, but starting to think about the possibility of a new wife, a new partner in crime. Someone who gets that my kids will always come first and who shares the same core values. I'm cautious, you better believe it, but I'm also hopeful. So here's the kicker, the moral of the story, or whatever you want to call it. Trust, it's everything. Without it, you're building on quicksand. And the truth, no matter how ugly, no matter how brutal, it's worth facing. Lies, they eat away at everything like rust. They might not cause the collapse right away, but give it time, and down it all comes. I've learned a lot about myself, about what I can handle, and about what it really means to stand by your principles. I'm not the same guy I was when I started posting here. I'm a little wiser, a little tougher, and a lot more thankful for the honest people out there. Thanks for being a part of my story, Reddit, for the advice, the tough love, the virtual shoulder to lean on. Keep your eyes open, stand firm, and never settle for less than you deserve. This was Mike, signing off now. Thanks everyone for watching, and if you would subscribe to this channel, it would mean the world to me. Thanks to everyone that does, and enjoy the rest of your day or night. Good day. I don't know if I'll be able to string these words together. My head is a mess at the moment and I don't know how to act. I'm writing this now to see if I can get it off my mind. My pregnant wife has been lying to me for a while now, and I just found out that not only is she lying, she's cheating too. I, 37 male, have been married to my wife, 35-year-old female, for about 7 years now. We have no children, although she's pregnant as I'm writing this. A few months back, I started noticing some changes in my wife's behaviors. She was always a shy, quiet, and all-in-all introverted lady, and that was one of the reasons why I first fell in love with her. We used to cuddle for long hours, without saying a single word to each other, and for someone who's working. Life is very stressful, that was all I needed. But as I said, I started to notice her change. At first I thought it's good that she's starting to come out of her shell, took her 35 years, lol. She started going out more with friends, and she also started staying out long. Before then, my words were a commandment to her. She never went anywhere without my permission. She never did anything, too, without my permission. Luckily for me, my wife and I cloned each other's WhatsApp account on our phones. I had hers on mine, and she also had mine on hers. We did this close to 12 years ago, 6 months after we started dating. It was something of an inside joke born out of seeing the sheer amount of people on the internet who had either been cheated on or duped out of a fortune by the SO. I hardly ever checked it because I trusted her, and she, before now, had never given me any reason not to trust her. But hey, here we are now. When I opened her WhatsApp on my phone, I saw different conversations from men and women that I have never known in my life. Many of those messages were inconsistent, as though she was deleting them. I started to get a little bit suspicious of what was going on. My wife worked for a friend of ours at a gym, so I just shrugged the weird feeling off. Maybe they now have new customers, I thought. Hey everyone. Unfortunately, basically everyone who is watching these videos isn't subscribed. It would mean the world to me to quickly get out of the full screen video for 3 seconds and press that subscribe button. It's free, and you can unsubscribe anytime. Sorry for bothering, and thank you so much if you subscribed. Even though I chose not to think too much about what I saw, I decided to turn on notifications for her messages. Let me see what it is she's deleting before she deletes them. One night, while my wife and I were cuddled up in bed, she got a text on her phone. She checked it, smiled, and headed for the bathroom. Hey, what's that? I asked. Nothing, it's just Haley. Haley was a longtime friend of hers. At first, I went back to bed. Since it's just Haley, why should I care about their conversation? I wanted to go back to sleep, but I couldn't. I have insomnia. So after staying awake for some time, I decided to just check my phone for a minute. As I was scrolling through TikTok, laughing at memes, I got a notification from my wife's WhatsApp account. It was from a contact saved under my husband. I was wowed. I figured she had saved the number, cause I wouldn't bother checking my messages. Now that I think of it, that was really clever of her. I opened the message. Holy shit. My jaw dropped for what felt like a minute. I scratched my eyes and pinched myself, hoping this was a dream. It wasn't. What did I see? A long history of back and forth messaging from my wife and this random guy, ranging from sharing nudes to talking about how they longed for one another, and sadly, some messages dissed me. How could she? What even annoyed me the most was the fact that whilst I read the chat, more messages were popping up. What do you have on? He sent her, to which she responded saying, just a robe, do you want me to take it off for you? He sent a yes, and after some seconds, she sent him a video of her, touching herself, fully nude. Right under my nose. She was doing this right under my nose. I swear I almost cried. It took the will of 1,000 Smiths for me to close that clone app. Minutes later, she got out of the bathroom, got dressed, and headed out. I wanted to follow her, trail her, see who she was cheating on me with, and deal with the both of them. I opted not to, because I knew that with how mad, heartbroken, and pissed off I was, I might have hit Ctrl Z on both their lives. I couldn't sleep that day. I went to the very top of the chat and started reading. From when he first slid into her DMs, she was mad at him for disrespecting me to my face, then mad at me for not doing anything about it. I was confused. I'm normally not one to take disrespect from anyone. As I read on, I found out who it was she was cheating on me with, and if you're guessing Haley's boyfriend, you're 100% accurate. This meth, I thought. I helped him get on Haley's good graces 5 years ago, and this is how he repays me? By screwing my wife? Then it hit me. My wife's pregnancy. Is the baby even mine? Wow. I was grateful to God when we got the news, but now I'm hoping that somehow the kid isn't mine. 'Cause now I decided I was going to leave. I don't really think I need advice here. Maybe if I go back and forth with someone in the comments, I can slowly move on from this. Also, I'm hoping that anyone who sees this and is going through something similar, I'm hoping you find happiness again. Anyway, I went to my lawyer house the next day, being Saturday. See, my lawyer was a childhood friend of mine, and he never seemed to like the woman I gave my surname to. We had discussed the situation. I let him have his "I told you so" rants for a few minutes. Then we went down to business. I need a divorce, and I need it yesterday, I told him. I brought him all the documents and asked him to prepare the divorce papers for me, quickly. You're lucky she made you sign the prenup, he said. I guess I was lucky. With the amount of money you have now and that which she earns now, you would have had to pay her off a couple $100,000. Oh my God. I couldn't think straight. I almost fell to my knees in thanksgiving. I thanked God I signed the prenup because, to be fair, I didn't even want to. To give you a rundown, when we were getting married, I was still doing odd jobs while managing my startup company. So I was earning a little above minimum wage while she was making roughly $70K annually. She cited the fact that her company had her in line for management and yada yada yada, so she made me sign the prenup. Well, fortunately and unfortunately for her, when the coronavirus came, her company was one of them that got swept off by the 1.5-year-long lockdown. It got so bad that towards the end, they couldn't even pay their workers. They owed a lot of money, and she ended up getting let go. On the other hand, the lockdown brought good tidings my way. My startup started to make some money, and I was able to retire from working altogether, as by the time the lockdown got to 10 months, I was already making close to $20K monthly whether I came into the company or not. So, back to the issue on ground. My wife angers me to even call her that now, so I'll call her by the devil's spawn name she was given. After talking about what to do with Lucy for a while, I decided that I was going to stack evidence up. I was going to print out screenshots of both their infidelity. I was going to get videos too. I was going to send it to her parents and to the church. She was a minister at our church, and if the kid isn't mine, I was going to leave. I and my lawyer friend, Davis, went to the bar to help me cool down. He suggested he helped me bag a shawty to hook up with for the night, which I declined. Hooking up with randoms is what got me into this mess. At the end of the day, I was too drunk to drive, so Dave dropped me off at home. As I sat there, drunk, thinking of how my life, which I had planned to be perfect, had now gone up in flames, I was so distraught. At some point, my hours of thinking, I didn't even know when I brought out a rope, hung it up and sat there looking at it for a while. Looking back at it now, that was the most cowardly thing to do, but then I was ready to bid this shitty life going. I went for a run. When I came back, my wife sat in the parlor crying. I hadn't put back the rope and she had seen it there. She ran to hug me as she saw me walk in, saying how she never knew I was going through something, how I never said a word about my pain to her, how she couldn't believe I would try to take my own life and leave her alone with the kid. I was disgusted by her words. The mere sight of the woman I had loved for over 10 years now started to make my stomach turn. She tried to kiss me, saying everything would be all right. I bowed my head. She thought it was 'cause I was still depressed or whatever. At that moment, I looked her in the eyes and asked her, "Is there anything you want to tell me?" She froze, looking at me like she was trying to read my mind. I repeated the question, "Is there anything you want to tell me?" Could you believe this devil's child tried to gaslight me? Me? How dare she try to play the mind games? "What do you mean?" she asked. "Are you crazy? I'm here crying my eyes out about you wanted to unalive yourself and you have the guts to ask me, 'Is there anything you want to tell me? Is this some sort of a joke?'" she added. After a lot of shouting and arguing, I was even surprised that I didn't let slip that I knew she was cheating. She went up to the bedroom and I starred in the parlor for a while. I have had it up to my neck, so I decided to pour it out here before I try again and succeed this time. Update. Thank you guys for reaching out to me. I planned to update you all, but I came out of retirement like Lionel Messi, LOL. I took the advice of some of you who said I should seek therapy. I was never really a fan of it, but I must say it has helped me a lot in this trying time. I've also started hitting the gym, as is normal in these situations. I'm glad I shared my story because I never really knew what I would have done if I didn't. After that long argument where I left off, we didn't talk for weeks, which was fine by me as I didn't want to see her face anymore. I kept on taking screenshots and piling them up. Also, I put up hidden cameras in the house. Lucy owned the place. I wanted to believe that she didn't bring him over to the house and that they didn't do anything on the bed we shared. Well, let's just say I was stupid for thinking they wouldn't. After one more month, I had loads of evidence. I created a website which I posted all the videos I gathered, from videos of him to videos of hers, to videos of both of them. If you had seen me working on that website, you'd have thought I was creating a porn site. Well, 3 months later, Lucy was in labor. I had drafted all the necessary documents and had filed for a divorce. Her labor was on the day of her cheating partner's anniversary with Haley. Coincidence? I think not. I went over to their place with a copy of the documents and records of the affair. I knocked on the door and was greeted by Haley's. I handed the documents to her and say to her, "Your husband and my soon-to-be ex-wife are screwing each other." Within seconds, her husband came out, unclad but for a towel wrapped around his waist. I guess he didn't hear me at the door. From the look on both our faces, he knew what was going on. "Honey, I can explain, he said. "Why do they always think they can explain?" In a fit of rage, since I was days away from being free, I rushed at him, swinging. I even thought he would be able to put up a fight, but he wasn't. Such a pathetic, weak man. He was in his early 40s. As he laid on the ground, passed out like a fat man after one round of intimacy, I stood over him, wondering what would make Lucy cheat on me with this peon. As I left, I pulled his hair, taking a few with me. Now to find out if I'll be paying child support or not, I went back to the hospital, the nurses wondering why I had left and why I was walking in blood-fisted and with hair in my hand. I walked straight to one of the midwives, handed her the hair and said, "Take this. Immediately that child is born, run a DNA test with this hair and with my blood sample. Also, if the child is not mine, be sure my name isn't on the birth certificate." I went out again, to the church this time. Luckily, the pastor was on seat. I handed him another copy of the documents. I didn't even have time to see the look on his face. I placed calls, telling my Staub ex-wife's family that I have an important announcement and I want to meet all of them at their father's house. When I got there, they were all waiting for me. I started handing out more copies, from mom to dad to brother to sister. Everyone got copies. I made to leave, then turned to them. "She's in labor, may be mine, may not be mine." Then I made to leave again. Her younger sister, who weirdly also got cheated on, ran to hug me. She was crying. Her brother shook my hands and said, "Do what you have to do, man. She f***ed up. Feed her to the streets." Her dad walked towards me. A tear in his eyes, he stood in front of me for a while, both of us eyeballing each other. Then he spoke. "You've been the best partner any of my children has had, and you've been my favorite in-law. I know you're going to split from her, and frankly, I'm not asking you guys to stay together. I just want you to know, I didn't raise her this way." He hugged me, and for the first time in this whole ordeal, I cried. I headed home, called Davies, and set up the final phase. The big reveal. I had decorated the whole house with balloons and baby stuff, and hung a big sign on the wall which read, "I know what you did." I went back to the hospital. I had already missed the birth of the child, and this woman who doesn't know we are soon getting separated had the audacity to frown. She wanted to argue with me for missing the childbirth, but she needed her rest. I asked to see the child. The nurse looked at me. She had a sad look on her face. I knew what she meant. The child wasn't mine. I had mixed feelings about it. Happy that I don't have anything that would make me have to see this woman again, and sad that I didn't have a child. I went outside and made more phone calls. I called everyone to come to the house that we were celebrating the birthday of the child. Lots of other people in the neighborhood who knew her and us. I really wanted to crush this woman's whole life. Hours later, the doctor let us leave. I thanked the nurse for not putting my name on the BC and left. She tried to argue with me on the way home, but I stayed quiet. I had her right where I wanted her. On getting home, we were greeted by everyone. I was happy. Everyone was here. Her childhood friends, her work colleagues at her new job as a secretary, some well-wishers from the church. Yes, this was the first time I was happy in a while. I was ready to drink her tears. Davis was inside. I had him turn on the 102's plasma TV in the room and had it displaying the videos of her infidelity. We walked in. Her eyes first went to the big sign on the wall. Then everyone walked in ready for a party of some sorts. Psych. I must admit, ruining her life was probably what made me finally find peace. I had washed her dirty laundry in the open, lol. She fainted. I waited for her to awake, then handed her the divorce papers. Davis said to her, "You see, the only good thing about this is you made him sign a prenup thinking he'd want your money. Now you're broke, and you're not going to get any divorce settlements." She tried to plead, to hold me in her arms and cry and beg. I laughed and looked at her, then I said, "Remember that day when you found the rope? That day I wanted to end my own life? It was because of you. I gave you a chance to come clean to me, but you decided to pee all over my grave. I was as good as dead then, and you laughed in my face, you mocked me. Well, it's payback time." I looked her in the eyes and said, "I'm done. We're done." Then I reached for my pocket, pulled out my phone, blocked and deleted her number right there and then, in front of her and everybody. She was still crying, snort and mucus coming out of her nose and mouth. She looked at me and said, "Babe, stop. Think about our child. I love you. Don't leave me. Please." I laughed TBH. She didn't know I already tested the kid. I reached again for my pocket, pulling out the DNA results. I placed it on the table, and in true Michael Jackson fashion, I said, "But the kid is not my son," as I moonwalked out of the crowd. 2 weeks later, the divorce was final. Very quick, very smooth. I paid nothing, shared nothing, as we didn't even have a joint account. I was free. I saw her only at the depositions. She was a shadow of herself. She wore my clothes to the both of them. It was funny, I swear. Looking at this woman who I loved for 10 years, this woman who, 8 months ago, I would have given my life for without questions, I felt nada. Nada. I won't be updating any further, as I think I have done the story justice. As for how my life is now, I'm just alive in the moment. Davis and I go out once a week to pick up some ladies to hook up with. I've become very fit from the months of living in the gym, lol. So I've become a real ladies' man. As for my ex-wife, I've not heard from her in 3 months. I heard her mum died a few days after I visited. Something, heart failure, I didn't check up. I've continued my therapy, with my therapist very disappointed by my scorched earth revenge. Thank you for reading and responding. I'll take all your judgments and criticism, praise and support in. But hey, as I said, this is goodbye.